Hello, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of No More Kids in Scientology. No more kids in Scientology because kids cannot consent to what's asked of them inside Scientology hotels and buildings. Hello, A Girl. Hello, Lauren. Hi, Kim from Toronto. Thank you for being here. And today, you guys, we are going to be reacting to an article that just broke from the literal LA Times. Isn't that great, you guys, that we do have a corporate media article to discuss today? And yeah, it's got us a little shook. It's got us a little shook, not gonna lie. AK Girl, hello. Thank you so much for being here, AK Girl. Kids cannot consent. That's right. Hello, Anita. Hi, Kate. Here to hold space. Thank you so much. That is very, very good that we have you guys here to witness, here to get educated on the advocacy that is so needed in terms of children inside Scientology hotels and commercial buildings who are literally being left to fend for themselves by the LAPD. Children who cannot consent, who are literally being left to fend for themselves by their own Scientology parents. So that's why we always get here together to continue to raise awareness, to continue to have very difficult conversations, but we're not going to get to any type of transparency if everyone keeps playing dumb. And given that children are the ones that suffer when people play dumb, when they make that choice, you guys, as you know, we call that out on a daily basis. Bunches of adults are playing dumb. They play dumb. They pretend they don't know what in the hell's going on inside of the hotels. They pretend they really want to whistle blow. They want to blow the whistle of altered importance. That's all we ever get. Oh, I really want to tell you where Shelly is. Oh, I really want to tell you where this other thing is going on that you really should care about because Scientology is this and Scientology is that and David Miscavige, blah, 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 and la, 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 and BBB and boo, boo, boo. And all of that is done so that people don't ask questions about what kids, underage kids. We're not even talking teenagers. We're talking underage. We're talking 1-year-old, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds that get exposed to the scourge of the rhetoric of convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard. Why should children be exposed to the rhetoric of a convicted felon? For y'all in the chat, please let us know, why in the literal hell would rhetoric from a convicted felon be pitched as some sort of amazing things to have children get exposed to? Because in this LA Times article that just broke today, it's got everything to do with, a lot of corruption that's being called out by LA Times. And we were surprised. We were shocked, actually. Shocked is more shocked than shook, because usually, yeah. So let's see here, you guys. What in the literal hell is actually going on? So the title of this article is Scientology tried to derail Star's grape trial by harassing prosecutor. Suit says Scientology calls it a false claim. Oh, isn't that great, you guys? that Scientology, all they ever do is call everything. Every time they get called out, they only got one answer. It's false. It's false. It's very false. Everything is false. Everything is false, you guys. Everything is false. Everything is false. Nearly 6 months after actor Danny Masterson was convicted of essaying two fellow members of the Church of Scientology, and remember, guys, convicted of two. There were plenty more victims who did not get a shred of justice for themselves. Lawyers for the victims filed a document that contained a stunning new allegation against Scientology. Submitted in downtown Los Angeles court as part of a year-old civil lawsuit against Scientology, the document referenced a purported effort by Scientology to derail the criminal proceedings against Masterson. So, derail the criminal proceedings against Masterson. Imagine that. Imagine that, Scientology. Let's not forget, let's contextualize something that gets so lost in this conversation, because for whatever reason, Scientology wasn't dragged to that criminal investigation. For whatever reason, Scientology was allowed to monetize data mining criminal information out of Danny, out of the victims, through so-called audits, through so-called security checks, through so-called technology that was going to get them to data mine all felonies, that was going to permit them to interrogate Danny Masterson to incriminate himself. He was paying to incriminate himself. That's how Scientology ensnares its people, you guys. Oh, well, you know what? Did you do something that was an illegal felony? Well, don't you worry about it. We're going to write you a little program here. Tell your business manager to call the IRS and get a tax write-off on that $100,000 that is going to cost you to launder the felony inside of the hotel. So imagine that not only did they purportedly had the effort to derail criminal proceedings against Masterson, they were actively being part of those, since they were the first ones that the victims went to for help. Imagine you are part of a so-called church and you in good faith go and try and get a shred of help. And imagine that all that is on the record these people do to help is, what does it say? Derail. So why is a nonprofit organization that purports to be all about being some sort of amazing thing for society involved in data mining information of a felony nature? These are felonies. What's in questions are felonies. This wasn't like, I had a very religious thing to talk about here. Let me talk about my religious thing. Have you committed any felony for which you have not been arrested? So let's keep that in mind in terms of the derailment, because it's horrible what happened to this prosecutor, but what about other stuff that's not even on the record? Imagine. Defendants and their agents engaged in a campaign of harassment and intimidation directed at one of the prosecutors assigned to defendant Masterson's trial. The declaration from civil attorney Simon Lean read that prosecutor's home and car windows were broken. The prosecutor's home's electronics were tampered with, and defendant's agents surveilled the prosecutor. So It's crazy to really come to this conclusion, you guys, that we have been so numbed by the fact that Scientology has such a large scale history of always doing the same shit and then spraying different air freshener on it and then expecting to get away with it. They don't give an F. They just spray air freshener, and then they serve the same platter of excrement and expect everyone to, you know, grab and eat the excrement and go, oh my God, this smells so much different than the excrement you just served to us. So this is not normal behavior. This is not normal behavior whatsoever. The December 2023 declaration didn't name the prosecutor or offer any additional detail, and Lean declined to comment. The claim, which was deep within a 372-page document, has not been previously reported. Scientology has vigorously denied that had anything to do with the incidents involving the prosecutor. Okay, you guys, so our car windows are just all getting literally slammed. Tires of protesters end up completely effed up. And all of these patterns that show up just always magically show up, and, nobody knows a shred of a thing. Isn't that interesting? It was not the first time that Scientology was quietly and publicly accused of attempting to interfere with Masterson's year-long legal saga. In a speech last fall, LA County Deputy District Attorney Reinhold Mueller delivered remarks that contain allegations nearly identical to those from the lawsuit, according to a video reviewed by The Times. In the speech given after he received an award for his work on the Masterson case, Mueller told hundreds of colleagues, including former District Attorney Jackie Lacey. What's up, Jackie Lacey? How are you doing, ma'am? About a pattern of disturbing incidents he alleged he experienced in late 2022 ahead of the sitcom star's first trial. Mueller said he was run off the road and his home was vandalized. According to the video, he also said that his cellular and internet service had been inexplicably knocked out of his residence. So, sorry, you guys. That was Michael interrupting, and I didn't understand what he was saying, but now I got it. Run off the road. Mueller said he was run off the road, home vandalized. I mean, again, you guys, what type of intimidation tactics, what type of theatrics, or, I guess it's all alleged, because that's the little game that's being played here. Everything is alleged, everything happens by coincidence, and everybody plays dumb on a full-time basis. La, 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 la. Not great. LA Times detectives on this case were also stalked, Mueller said in the video, and had their photographs taken while they were off duty. Mueller didn't directly blame Scientology in his speech, but two law enforcement sources told the Times that he accused Scientology of being behind the incidents in discussions with the LA County District's Office Bureau of Investigation, which reviews threats against prosecutors. Los Angeles police officers responded to an attempted break-in at Mueller's home in February 2022, according to a document reviewed by The Times. Responding officers noted damage to a window and described the incident as an attempted burglary, according to the document, which describes the suspect as unknown. After the break-in, the district's attorney's office conducted a threat assessment of Mueller's home and had security stationed there for at least one night, say the sources, who requested anonymity because they were not authorized to speak to the media. Mueller declined a request for an interview, and a spokeswoman for the district's attorney's office declined to comment. No criminal charges have arisen from Mueller's claims, and it does not appear that the prosecutor has provided evidence for his allegations that the incidents were carried out at the direction of Scientology. So, isn't that great, you guys, that there isn't anything like that? Paris, kids cannot consent, cannot be exposed to SA acts with strangers, and allow it to be called religion. I totally agree with you, Paris. And it would be great to understand why the LAPD is not agreeing with such said statement. It should be common sense, but yet, as we are seeing from this, bunches of people playing dumb. And speaking of playing dumb, here's Karen Powell. Karen Powell, a so-called spokeswoman for Scientology, that said allegations that Scientology harassed or intimidated witnesses, prosecutors, or law enforcement officers are categorically false. There is zero evidence to support these scandalous allegations. Indeed, all available evidence demonstrates that Scientology had nothing to do with the alleged acts. So I guess Karen Powell does not understand that there is such thing as a criminal conspiracy. And look that up in the dictionary, Karen. Look it up real quick and see the definition of conspiracy. Because this is always, oh, we had nothing to do with it. Well, you didn't have anything personally to do with it, Karen. But what about, influencing that in your network? Could that have anything to do with it, Karen? We know y'all don't go and do it yourselves anymore. That's so like back in the GO days where Mary Sue Hubbard was literally indicted and convicted from her doing the criminal activity herself with her own hands. So yes, we get it, Karen, that now you don't do it with your own two hands. But who gets it done? Who gets it done, Karen Powell? Who does it? If you don't do it, who? Who does it? Because that would be a very great question for you to answer instead of all this BS that you spew. Powell said, anti-Scientology bias was on full display throughout the trial. Damn, imagine being Karen Powell and being so dumb to pretend that there can be a bias, anti-Scientology bias. Karen MF Powell. If you're even the one writing this stupidity, there is no anti-Scientology bias. There is you being called out on the criminal actions that are being alleged that you may have influenced, that you may have told a person to tell another person to tell another person to get it executed. So imagine that you misconstrue everything as, oh yeah, they're just so biased. Read your own rhetoric, Karen Powell. Read who it came from. The rhetoric you pretend to be very religious was written by a convicted felon. So by all means, make it make sense how a convicted felon can write rhetoric that everyone should be completely okay with, because how does that make sense that a convicted felon is pitching rhetoric? She has accused a judge of making an unconstitutional interpretation of church doctrine. And also alleged Mueller is biased against the church. Damn. Isn't this great, you guys? Narcissism 101. Oh, you're biased. Or you're anti-us. I mean, a lot of people, and let me know if y'all in the chat, a little, being able to make your own conclusions based on what you see right in front of you, Karen Powell. Imagine us that were trafficked from other countries. Imagine us being made to sign unconstitutional contracts to become your slaves as underage kids. And so far what you don't have is a bias. So far what you do have is everyone purporting that you can go around the world recruiting underage children and shoving them inside your hotel and locking up their passports. And everyone should not have a single problem with that because according to you, you can do whatever in the hell you want. And if somebody tells you no, then you reach out for the Constitution and say unconstitutional. So learn to interpret the facts, Karen Powell, before blabbing your mouth, before just blah, blah, blah. It's all we ever get from you. Mueller, however, was not the only person involved in the Masterson case to accuse Scientology of harassment and intimidation. LAPD detectives who investigated the actor also said they had been surveilled and watched and experienced the same type of harassment, which they attributed to the agents or individuals from Scientology, according to former LAPD Chief Moore. An LAPD investigation turned out no proof that Scientology harassed the detectives, Moore said in an interview late last year. Not great, you guys, that this man is no longer there. And this man says that, oh, I did investigate it. And it turns out that nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. And we go back to our example of nobody wanting to pull a shred of string to go, oh, what? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Why do things make no sense? Why did no one investigate their way out of a literal paper bag? Because that would be very interesting to start understanding for ourselves. In what world can someone rise to be the head of the LAPD and not have a single shred of a clue how to pull a string? Imagine being that stupid and being paid to be an investigator, to pull the strings when things don't make sense, to really go and dig and find out what in the hell is all of this BS. One of the women behind the December legal filing that combined the harassment allegations involving Prosecutor was Chrissy Cornell Bixler, who claimed in the suit that Scientology or its agents tampered with her home security systems, vandalized her car, and described an incident in which someone attempted to run her off the road after she accused Masterson of rape. So how in the literal hell are all these things? Run off the road? Check mark. Messing with security systems? Check mark. Vandalizing cars? Check mark. I mean, in what world can all of these coincidences just be coincidentally happening before all these people just play dumb on a full-time basis? The Times typically withhold the identity of victims of SA, but Bixler has spoken publicly about the case and is a named plaintiff in the suit. Another plaintiff in the case, whose name is not public, alleged that unidentified men were following her in downtown during the trial. Scientology has repeatedly denied wrongdoing in the lawsuit, and Masterson dismissed it as an attempt to smear Scientology when it was first filed in 2017. Masterson was convicted of 2 counts of rape in May of 2023 and sentenced to 30 years in prison. The count involving Bixler resulted in a hung jury. Masterson has filed an appeal on the other counts. The civil lawsuit remains pending. A Times review of the court documents also found that during the Masterson trial, a longtime Scientology attorney tried to affect the outcome of an unrelated case involving Scientology in the same courthouse. I mean, you guys, how can all of this be going on in the courthouse? I mean, imagine that kids stuck inside of those hotels have been told by said courthouses that they are having a very spiritual experience, that they're living out the American dream, being locked up against their will inside of the literal hotel. Imagine the courthouses cannot even rein back in the corruption of these people. I mean, this is what in the hell is giving. In what world can they not rein anything back? Because literally, a Times review, a court document also found during the Masterson trial. So this was a court document that came up from during that trial going on. Longtime Scientology attorney tried to affect the outcome of an unrelated case. So this is another case unrelated, but it involved Scientology in the same courthouse. And according to transcripts, the LA County prosecutors and the public defender's office, Scientology's lawyer tried to broker a plea deal for a man accused of attacking a Scientology security guard, offering to help negotiate lesser charges as long as the man said his actions were inspired by a Scientology critic. Damn. Damn. This is what you call receipts. This is what you call receipts. According to court transcripts, LA County prosecutors and the public defender's office, Scientology's lawyer tried to broker a plea deal for a man accused of attacking a Scientology security guard, offering to help negotiate lesser charges as long as the men said that the actions were inspired by a Scientology critic. Here goes lying woman of the century, Powell, called the allegations against Scientology delusional and biased against Scientology. The entire story is a work of fiction. It is Scientology that is being harassed. It is Scientology that is being subjected to false allegations. You can find those allegations in the court transcript, Karen Powell. Find them in the court transcript and then say something that makes a shred of sense, because this is giving delulu. I'm utterly delulu. Karen Powell, the Lulu of delulus. So delusional can you be? In what world can you say that everything is completely whatever when there's a court transcript where that lawyer that blabbed his mouth and tried to affect that trial by concocting a plea deal to somebody that had, allegedly attacked a security guard of Scientology, and we know they have a history of lying about something like that. So imagine all those things make no sense at all. The initial grape case against Masterson ended in a mistrial, and Mueller recounted in his award acceptance speech that concerns about Scientology were a constant before it reached a courtroom. In what world is a nonprofit backed and sanctioned by the IRS to really save a world so top of mind in a prosecutor's head when they're not even prosecuting them. I mean, imagine that, you guys. The prosecutor was not prosecuting Scientology. It was prosecuting Danny Masterson on alleged things that happened in his house. Not inside Celebrity Center, not inside the hotel. Never mind that the hotel was being used as a laundering unit to data mine information that, you know what, maybe shouldn't have been such a great idea to be speaking inside of a hotel about said allegations. But in what world are prosecutors scared? Because there's a nonprofit out there that does what exactly? He spoke about bringing a colleague in onto the case and said it felt it was important to let her know it was Scientology and that they had a strong influence in this case. They've had a big impact on these victims, and I wanted her to have a heads up, and there may be more shenanigans, harassment, stalking, retaliation. Those things might be a possibility. Two other attorneys declined to sit second chair in the case for fear of Scientology interference, Mueller said in the video before Deputy District Attorney Ariel Anson took the job. Anson declined to be interviewed for the story. Mueller was the only prosecutor known to have alleged any harassment. While he was on a trip outside California shortly before Masterson's second trial, Mueller received a panicked phone call from his wife, said the two officials not authorized to speak publicly. She heard glass breaking and went downstairs to find a window had been damaged. The incident led district attorney investigators to guard Mueller's home overnight. Los Angeles police were also called to the scene, police records show. A known suspect used a known tool to break window. Suspect did not make entry and fled, read the LAPD report, which listed Mueller's wife as the victim. LAPD Captain Kelly Muniz, the department's chief spokeswoman, said that an investigation in the breaking remains ongoing. Powell said that Scientology has never contracted by Mueller or the district's attorney's office about the alleged harassment, and she claims that the claims are outlandish and unbelievable on their face. Unbelievable on their face, Karen Powell, is what you do to kids inside of your Scientology hotels. Unbelievable on their face, Karen Powell, is the fact that you and your goons inside of the hotel go around telling each other that a child is just an adult. That is unbelievable on its face. And then on top of that, to have, you know, again, the LA Times coming up, backing a prosecutor, letting the world know what in the hell happened to prosecutors. Because yes, it sucks that a prosecutor has that job and it is very, very hard for them and they get very, very harassed. Imagine what in the hell the nightmare of children left inside of these disgusting buildings have to do and fend for themselves. It's very scary to be a prosecutor. Very, very scary. Well, imagine a child in the hands of these people. What in the hell does anyone think a child is left with when the prosecutors are so scared of touching these toxic, disgusting predators with a 10-foot pole? Nobody wants to do anything with them because they come across very scary and intimidating, and all manner of stuff happens to people that dare to deal with a legal matter that should have not been any of their business. But why was Danny Masterson such a Scientology business? He grew up in there. And where did he go to get help after he was inside of that situationship? He went to Celebrity Center. He went to go get his handlers to fix it for him. Scientology has long held that the case against Masterson, a lifelong Scientologist, literally born in, was tainted by religious bias. A claim Powell again level. If Mueller said those things, then it's part of a campaign of blatant harassment against Scientology, she said. Scientology never engaged in the conduct he alleges. Well, Mueller's colleagues defended him. He has a reputation of being extremely careful, honest, and straightforward, said Deputy District Attorney Eric Siddall, former vice president of the union representing rank and file prosecutors. Masterson starred as the bad boy Stephen Hyde on that 70s show, and in court his victims said they waited years to come forward because of his celebrity status and because Scientology forbids reporting fellow members to law enforcement. Forbids is the question, you guys. That is the unconstitutional thing that was interpreted. Shut the F up, Karen Powell, with your unconstitutional. It's your policies that are completely unconstitutional. The ones written about convicted felon. Check the source of your policies, Karen Powell, and stop playing dumb and deluded spokeswoman writing all manner of whatever in the hell comes to your head at the moment. Because you know what? You are not sanitizing anything. People can read through your BS pitch about how this is all this and about how this is all that, as if any of this has anything to do with religion. You only cite that to falsely pretend that you can safeguard yourself as a minority religion. Imagine you've been going around pretending that you're some minority religion that really is under attack when you are attacking kids at an industrial size scale. So make that make sense, Karen Powell, with all your little statements here that are complete and utter BS. You would know, Karen Powell, if you opened up the ethics book, how forbidden it is to send anyone to seek any type of help from any legal entity, period, full stop. So in what world can you talk from every last side of your mouth, Karen Powell? Although Scientology has long denied such a policy, a Los Angeles County Superior Court judge ruled otherwise after a 2021 prelim hearing in the Masterson trial. Hearing witnesses also terrified that Scientology officials dismissively referred to secular policies and courts as WOG law, a reference to a pejorative term for non-Scientologists. The organization has its own international justice chief to handle internal disputes, according to trial testimony and documents presented during the case. International justice chief. So tell us the type of justice that has taken place, you guys, and put that on your notes to really, think about that for a second. So they have an international justice chief. And how much justice has been secured for every last self-admitted PDF file that is stuck inside of those hotels? Self-admitted, we're talking. We're not even talking caught or alleged. We're talking they went and then they recorded themselves on video for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of incriminating, highly incriminating self-admissions. Time, place, form, and event of how they violated the law. So what is that called, Karen Powell? Perhaps you really want to, update your statement with actual clarifications of what in the hell does not make a shred of sense. Because that would be very, very good for you to clarify, with the facts. And we would know the facts, Karen, because we were there as children, no less, being exposed to all those BS policies that you groomed us to make sure we never went to the police, Karen. So don't try to now backpedal and say, oh no, that's just this and that's just that. And no one can have a shred of interpretation about it because what? Who benefits from that not being interpreted? Children or adults, Karen Powell? So when you answer that question with a straight face, we can have the next set of questions that we need to ask you. Although the church has long denied such policy, the church has denied allegations that it has a policy barring members from reporting one another to police. Deny it all you want. We have the receipts and the facts, you guys. It's called, where are the reports to the police? If they haven't been barring and obstructing justice, then show us where the justice has been done. There should be plenty of records to corroborate that you've always done the right thing when you find out people self-admitted felonies. And since there's not such evidence on the record in the last 74 years, perhaps double check if you're not just a full-blown pathological liar from hell, Karen Powell, because it looks like every one of your statements is just full of excrement with a different air freshener. You think that the air freshener is going to just change everything for everyone, isn't it? After learning of Mueller's speech and the lawsuit accusing Scientology of harassment from the Times, Claire Headley, a former Scientology executive who testified as an expert witness at Masterson's trial and successfully sued Scientology in 2009, said that the alleged incident sounded familiar to tactics alleged used by the Office of Special Affairs. Even Claire Headley, you guys, is telling them, oh yeah, this sounds exactly what they do at the Office of Special Affairs. And yes, I get that the LA Times needs to write here the tactics allegedly. Well, you know what? LA Times, some of us were children being used as pawns in those schemes. So we don't have to say alleged. We were made unwilling participants in OSA schemes. We had to send the information to OSA for them to launder it, for them to crisis manage it. So yes, from first-hand experience is what in the hell these people were doing to me starting at age 12. So let's make sure we keep that into perspective. In what world are 12-year-olds being used as part of the OSA schemes and scams that, yes, you guessed it, this man ran for decades. This is the man that normalized it. This is the man that made it all look like they knew what in the hell they were doing. So right here, this is the who and the why of OSA. This is the man who ran OSA. This is the man who hid felonies for OSA with a ton of help, with a ton of co-conspirators, with a ton of enablers, with a ton of willing proteges. None of these things could have happened in a vacuum by themselves. This man couldn't be more pathetic to have gotten it done all by himself. He recruited minions to help him do his bidding. The one that L. Ron Hubbard pitched to him, his little daddy figure, L. Ron Hubbard. Oh, I really want to do what L. Ron Hubbard says because I'm really going to save a world by whatever L. Ron Hubbard says. Well, you know what? Check that pitch, Mike Rinder. Check if you were saving a world by enslaving kids at an industrial size scale. Check that really quick. Check that in your head. Go back to those years and start writing down every child that you trafficked with your buddies inside of hotels. Underage kids that you shoved in cockroach-infested motels because you really wanted their parents to be doing slave work for you and the rest of your executive buddies. So glad that the LA Times put you right here because in court filing in the same case, in a court declaration in the Ramini case, Leah Ramini, Headley also accused Scientology of using private investigators to harass her organization, the Aftermath Foundation, which offers supports to those who have left Scientology. In court's filing in the same case, Scientology has dismissed Headley as one of Remini's partners in bigotry and said that she had been removed from Scientology for too long to have any direct knowledge of its current operating procedures. Oh my MF God, no, you MF didn't. You guys, nothing can change inside of those hotels. For those in the back that are idiotic and stupid AF, that don't get how Scientology works, you cannot change the policies of L. Ron Hubbard. Claire Headley didn't have the authority to change the policies. Mike Rinder didn't have the authority to change the policies. David Miscavige doesn't have the authority to change the policies. No one has the authority to change a shred of a thing that L. Ron Hubbard, convicted felon, wrote on a piece of paper. In what world are their current operating procedures different from when we were exposed to this level of trafficking and criminal racketeering scheme? Because that would be really great to understand what were the policies that changed the current operating procedures. Since no one has the authority to change a shred of a thing, how can procedures have changed? How? How did they change? What happened that made it be different? Mike Rinder, a member of the Aftermath Foundation board, once served as the head of Office of Special Affairs, Office of Special Illegal Affairs, in our personal opinion, and described it as Scientology's CIA. In a recent declaration in Remini's lawsuit. Damn. So you, Mike Rinder, said that you ran Scientology's CIA? Interesting. So in what world would you, CIA, OSA CIA agent that you were for decades, the head of, unaware of all manner of things that you just claim to be like, oh yeah, but I didn't hear about that. Oh yeah, but I wasn't there. Oh yeah, but I was in the hole. Oh yeah, but I was covering up Lisa McPherson's murder. So in what world are you so out of the loop? If you're the head of the CIA, in what world can the head of a CIA, the top dog of a CIA, not be looped in or selectively looped in? Isn't the head of the CIA the one that has the most knowledge of the intelligence being gathered? Isn't it? And if it's a CIA, you would know the type of ops being run. You would know the type of crisis management being done. So thank you for that explanation, because OSA is more like, you know, the full-blown illegal CIA. Never mind that, yes, between us all here, we do have a CIA. The United States of America, breaking news, does have a CIA. The CIA does have the legal granted powers to do whatever in the hell the CIA decides to do, and we don't know, and that's how this country runs. But you running a CIA operation out of a hotel, Mike Rinder, that ain't covered. You don't get to hide the things that you were doing, because you were not saving a literal country, much less a world, because you were out there covering up systemic abuses and trafficking of minors at an industrial size scale. So by all means, make this exact sentence, 2 words, make sense, Mike Rinder, because I think you just told on yourself. The CIA has the legal capacity to do all manner of things, you guys, that we wouldn't know about as citizens of this country. We might not like it, but that's how it works. That's how it's been worked out. OSA, aka Mike Rinder's Scientology CIA, does not have that capacity, does not have that legal capacity. In what world is a non-profit going to claim to have a CIA internal? How does that make a shred of sense? Are you guys a church? Are you guys a hotel? Are you guys a CIA? Are you guys, what in the hell is going on inside of those hotels, you guys? I mean, you guys tell me, because this CIA comment from Mike Rinder, oh my God. Rinder, former Scientology spokesperson, said that Scientology's tactics include hiring private investigators to surveil and intimidate targets. Targets. See, you guys, that's what we were. We were targets. We were dehumanized. We were pawns. We were pawns in a scheme. We get made into targets. Harassing targets' families, friends, and employers in order to intimidate them, and enlisting homeless and mentally ill people to harass and intimidate targets according to the declaration. Enlisting homeless and mentally ill people to harass and intimidate targets. Powell dismissed Rinder as a bigoted, excommunicated member of Scientology, describing him as an inverted liar. Inveterate liar. Imagine that she's describing herself. He has made a career of attacking his former religion, his former scam. I would agree with you on that, Karen. So just switch the word religion to scam. And then, you know what? You totally got me on your literal page. For once, we're going to be on the same page. He has made a career of attacking his former scam that he propped up with the IRS, with Marty Rathbun and David Miscavige. Rinder knows for a fact that there's no way on God's green earth that Scientology would ever harass. Nor have we ever harassed any law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. The accusations are false, defamatory, and outrageous. Imagine lying through your teeth like this, you guys. Because again, in what world can Karen say that they've never harassed a single soul when they're harassing children on a daily, literal basis? Just to go back to our point, the thing that makes sense for us, the advocacy that we're doing for those kids that are being harassed on a daily basis, but everyone is pretending that those kids locked up against their will inside hotel rooms are having a very religious experience for themselves. Well, double check if that's really what is going on with those kids in there. Rinder did not respond to multiple requests for comment. Well, not great, Rinder, that you're nowhere to be found for multiple requests for comment now? Interesting. Scientology officials have similarly long denied the existence of fair game, a practice that Rinder and others allege is a no-holds-barred approach to quashing criticism. Let's expand that definition of fair game. Fair game, it's a no-holds-barred approach to labeling children underage as adults and make them pawns in a scheme where they are fair game 24/7, 365, because all adults inside of the hotel, degenerates that they are going with the pitch. We're going to really save a world by calling all kids adults. That's what's going to save a world. So that would be very great to get how all of these Scientology parents are standing on their own 2 feet, lying through their teeth on a minute-to-minute basis to keep up their delusions. Any and all statements that Scientology has a policy of fair game are false. The implication that such a policy endorses violating the law of the land is so false. Lynn Farney, an ordained Scientology minister and corporate office of the church, said in a recent court declaration from the Ramini case. Who in the hell is this Lynn Farney, you guys? But again, Scientology minister, meaning somebody that locks kids up, including but not limited to against their will, and asks them disgusting, despicable, atrocious questions. So do we really need to listen to you, Lynn Farney? Allegations that Scientology was attempting to influence the Masterson case first spilled into court last May when Mueller told the trial judge that Scientology had obtained a very large quantity of discovery materials. The files, according to a transcript of the hearing, included emails and text messages between investigators and Masterson's accusers. Mueller said in the court that he learned of the materials were in the church's possessions after an attorney for Scientology mistakenly attached them to an email to the district's attorney's office. The message was intended to be a complaint against Mueller and his co-counsel, but it also included a message to the LAPD chief written on Scientology letterhead that included links to about 570 pages of people's discovery, the prosecutor said in court. I mean, how many more corrupt things can these people get away with doing? Weeks earlier, Moore had met with the Scientology representatives at his office of LAPD headquarters. According to the former chief, who retired at the end of February, Scientology has accused LAPD detectives and prosecutors on the Masterson case of misconduct. Moore said he agreed to hear them out. Not great, you guys, that you can just, get the top brass. The police chief himself will hear them out. That's great. Isn't it great that he really wants to hear them out and have a little meeting? The meeting last April was not listed on a copy of the chief's official schedule obtained by the Times. Oops. So you want to sit down and hear them out, but you want to keep that off the official schedule. Let's make it unofficial, is what this Chief Moore really went with. Let's make it unofficial. Nothing says transparency like doing an unofficial meeting. Moore and an LAPD spokesperson said it was attended by Scientology's head of security and Vicky Pavaresky, the attorney who had accidentally emailed the protected files to Mueller. Vicky Pavaresky, who literally is a potential trouble source that made a mistake. In Scientology, you aren't allowed to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, you are a potential trouble source. And Vicky Pavaresky was probably being sent there to make amends for being such a potential trouble source, making such stupid mistakes, showing how dirty they really are. Pavaresky did not return multiple requests for comments. She previously told the Times that documents were legally and properly obtained Two other attorneys responsible for disclosing the files were sanctioned by Masterson's trial judge. The church and Moore have given contradictory accounts of the reason for the meeting. According to Moore's recollection, Povereski and her group reminded the chief that Scientology was not a part of the trial, but said that they had come to share allegations that detectives and prosecutors of the case had falsified witness testimony, overstated or coached witness testimony, and withheld evidence. Povereski also claimed to have boxes and files and electronic documents that would demonstrate clearly such misconduct, according to Moore. Powell, the church spokeswoman, insisted the meeting had nothing to do with the Masterson case. Scientology requested to meet with Chief Moore to present complaints about his bias and misconduct by LAPD officers. With respect to Scientology, you guys, what type of evidence does anyone can point to really show that the LAPD officers need to be complained on for bias and misconduct? Has anyone seen the protest, the lack of bias by these LAPD officers, the lack of wanting to not misconduct on the benefit of Scientology? I mean, I guess this now starts to make a lot of sense, right? Because if the LAPD officers are getting disciplined, imagine the LAPD officers are getting disciplined because Scientology goes over their head and starts complaining to the very, very one at the very, very top. So, including accepting and maintaining open investigations of blatantly false reports about Scientology. Blatantly false reports about Scientology. Karen Powell, the only one who puts up blatant false reports is you, who types blatantly false lies and denials that are so empty. Your little denials are just propping up your delusions. The LAPD accepted the complaints and opened an investigation for the reported misconduct, which includes the disposition of open cases as to Scientology. It was explicitly stated that the meeting was not in connection with Masterson trial and the prosecutor was never discussed. In both 2023 November interview with the LA Times, in response to questions about Powell's statement, Moore remained steadfast that the meeting was in relation to the Masterson trial. Through an LAPD spokeswoman, he reiterated that Scientology's officials brought boxes of alleged evidence of misconduct by our detectives and the prosecution, as it's their go-to, you guys. That's what they do. Collect evidence, collect boxes of data as a CIA office that can collect a lot of things and pitch whatever in the hell delusion is convenient for them to lie. The judge in the Masterson's case, Charlene Omero, ruled last year that Scientology's complaints about Mueller and his co-counsel were demonstrably false. Moore said the department conducted its own internal investigation, which was not completed at the time of this interview. He does not believe law enforcement committed any misconduct in the case. Moore's decision to take the meeting set off alarm bells, both within the LAPD and the district's attorney's office. Masterson had been the target of an LAPD investigation, and even if Moore took no action, there were concerns the meeting could create an appearance of impropriety. Oh, hell yes. It's not just an appearance. It's what we have been literally up against. It's not appearances. Forget about appearances, LAPD. We're way past the point of anybody giving an F about appearances when y'all have decided so blatantly to always do the wrong thing. Nonstop. Like, okay, come on. Like, what in the hell is actually going on? Like, why are you so stupid? In what world are you being used as useful idiots, LAPD? What type of blackmail would these people have on y'all to, literally show that you can be useful idiots and pawns in a scheme where you always show up at the wrong time, where you always show up to arrest the wrong person, where you always don't follow a shred of due process because you just, push your weight around in an effort to, what was it? What was that word? Oh yeah, harass, and what was it else? Intimidate. Intimidate. That's all you can do. Intimidate people into silence. One high-ranking LAPD official and two sources within the district's attorney's office said it was highly unorthodox for him to personally receive an internal affairs complaint. The timing seemed extremely inappropriate to me, said the LAPD official who requested anonymity for fear of retribution from the department. In the middle of the trial, you're going to take a meeting because they're high-up attorneys with the Church of Scientology? I mean, unorthodox AF, the timing extremely inappropriate. In court, Mueller said that Scientology's visit to the LAPD headquarters impacted the case, noting that one of the lead detectives, Esther Mayape, expressed reservation about testifying after news of the meeting surfaced. Olmedo described the timing of Scientology's allegations against the detectives as calculating, noting the meeting with Moore took place days before Mayape was scheduled to testify. In this declaration in the civil lawsuit on behalf of Masterson's victims, Lean also accused Scientology of filing baseless accusations against the detectives and the prosecutors in the Masterson's case, that there were time to interfere with the retrial of Masterson's. Attempt to contact Mayape was unsuccessful. Detective Javier Vargas, the other lead investigator on the Masterson's case, declined to be interviewed. Moore said that several LAPD detectives on the Masterson case reported some type of harassment, which they attributed to agents or individuals from Scientology. An internal LAPD investigation, however, found no evidence of church involvement, Moore said. Powell said neither Moore nor the LAPD official contacted Scientology about the supposed harassment. She denied any contention that the meeting with the chief was an attempt to intimidate the investigations of the officers and suggested that the detectives were attempting to deflect for their own alleged misdeeds. Moore acknowledged frustration in the ranks about his meetings with Scientology officials, but maintained that the situation warranted his involvement. The person who represents themselves as the counsel for this institution was making very aggressive and very serious charges of prosecutorial misconduct, as well as department misconduct. And I, out of abundance of caution, wanted to ensure that they understood that we took that seriously, Moore said. Oh my God, you guys. While Masterson's second trial played out in front of cameras last year, another criminal case involving Scientology won through the legal system in the same downtown LA courthouse. Armando Garcia, 52-year-old convicted offender, was awaiting trial after he allegedly drove his car at a Scientology security guard outside the West Coast headquarters on Sunset Boulevard, according to a probation report. Garcia told the Time he was distributing leaflets claiming that Scientology has connections to Satanism when he was confronted by the guard who told him to leave. According to a probation report, Garcia got in his car and drove in the guard's direction but did not actually strike him. Although the man was not harmed, Garcia still faced assault with a deadly weapon charges. His public defender, Adela Gorgon, said last April that a Scientology attorney approached her with an offer to broker a deal, according to court records. Kendrick Moxon, a lifelong Scientologist and prominent Scientology attorney, wanted Garcia to say he did what he did because he was inflamed by documentaries and a potential reality TV show that is currently airing or has aired on Netflix, according to a transcript of a preliminary hearing in the case. The documentary Gorgon referenced was Scientology and the Aftermath, created by Remini, the actor's outspoken former member of Scientology. The former King of Queens star sued the organization last year, alleging that the church and its members had harassed and stalked her since she defected in 2013. Ramini also regularly attended Masterson's trial in support of victims. Under the proposed deal, if Garcia blamed his alleged actions on Ramini, the Scientology attorney would ask prosecutors to reduce the charges to a misdemeanor or even less, according to the transcript. Gorgon did not respond to a request for comment. Court transcripts show Garcia called Scientology an abomination, but he maintains Ramini's show had nothing to do with his actions. His public defender accused Moxon of trying to use the case to further Scientology's battles with Ramini, according to the court transcript. It is clear that Scientology, for whom the security guard is employed, has an agenda that is bigger and absolutely unrelated to Mr. Garcia. And they're using Mr. Garcia in this case as a pawn in order to be able to get these documentaries off the air, Gorgon said. A spokesperson for the district's attorney's office confirmed that Scientology attorney approached prosecutors and said that Scientology would accept a lighter sentence against Garcia if he admitted on the record that Leah Remini documentary influenced him to commit the offense. In a sworn declaration in Remini's lawsuit, Moxon said Garcia's initial attorney, public defender Justin Page, had told him Garcia's action toward the church were motivated by Remini. In a statement to the Times, Page said the context of Moxon's declarations were baseless. An attorney for Moxon denied all wrongdoings and said there was nothing improper about his client's actions on behalf of Scientology. Moxon was acting as a victims' rights attorney in the case and often appeared as counsel for victims in prosecution arising out of crimes in which Scientology or individual Scientologists were the victims, his lawyers said. A judge reduced the charge against Garcia to misdemeanor after receiving video of the incident. Garcia was sentenced to 1 year of probation in order to stay away from Scientology, the district attorney's office said. Ramini said she wasn't shocked to hear her name invoked at proceedings. She had nothing to do with this. They will stop at nothing to protect Scientology, she said of Scientology. Bixler, one of Masterson's accusers, has filed a civil lawsuit and said that, as many others, that Scientology allegedly harassed and no resolution can undo the fear they instilled in her. I can count on two hands the amount of times I've left my home in the last few years, she said in her victim impact statement at Masterson's sentencing hearing last year. This and so much more is the life sentence Mr. Masterson and Scientology have given me. So there you go, you guys. I'm glad that I was able to read with you all this piece that obviously is well researched. We know that none of these people could have come forward and make those claims and put their law licenses on the lines if everything is just frivolous, squirrelous, outrageous, and whatever in the hell else comes to mind when Karen Powell is wanting to, exploit the public record and literally go for that. Trailblazer Laura, preach it, brother. Thank you, Trailblazer. I appreciate that. Yeah, we have to react, you guys. What is your reactions? Questions need to be answered. After how many years and still nothing to DM 1, 2, and 3, knowing all of that information, all of these stories, everything others have said. I mean, yeah, you guys, it gets to be a bit mind-numbing to just keep seeing more and more and more corroborating evidence of all of these, outrageous things that they're doing behind the scenes, always behind the scenes, always lurking, always figuring a way for them not to get caught. Oh, look at this. DOA swatted again today. I mean, it's intimidation, you guys. It's all intimidation. Get out of our thing. We're going to send the cops to SWAT you. The cops don't care. They're getting paid. You know, the LAPD is doing great. The LAPD is not pressed at all. We investigated ourselves and found nothing that we did wrong. Exactly, you guys. We investigated ourselves, and, you know, due to the investigation that we've done, everything is amazing and everything is great and everything is wonderful. So not everything is great and not everything is wonderful because, again, all manner of children are implicated and ensnared in this web of horrible people that literally take it upon themselves to empower themselves, to give themselves a fake power trip by reading L. Ron Hubbard and then pretending that children are not children, that they're adults, that they can be treated as adults, that they can be ensnared in contracts as adults, that they can sign NDA as if they were adults, that they can be locked up in hotel rooms getting interrogated as if they were just all adults. So imagine if prosecutors are scared of Scientology because they do intimidate it. Imagine prosecutors declined to second chair this because Scientology was involved. And imagine no one gives an F about what happens to the kids stuck at the hotels. It's like we always say, better luck next lifetime to those kids, because no help is coming y'all's way. You're having a spiritual experience. Deal with it. Your parents said it was okay. So again, trafficking 101, even if your parents say that you should be locked up in a roach-infested motel and being sold to a man that's paying $500 an hour for your time, the crime is still illegal. If you put a cross in front of a door and then you trap a child inside of a hotel room with a grown adult and you make $500 an hour and you make $1,000 an hour from having that child and adult locked up in that hotel, the crime is still the same. This isn't about interpreting anyone's beliefs to do whatever in the hell you want. Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke lock their kids, handcuff them, strap them against their will. Imagine if those kids would have had no wounds in their hands, you guys. Imagine that, they would have gone and tried to get some help. And imagine that the neighbor would have just been like, oh no, here's just a runaway troublesome kid. Let me call the police. And the police would just be bringing the kid right back to Ruby and Frankie. They just effed up because there were visible wounds. Imagine that the child got lucky that those predators left the wounds, that the child got lucky that these women were such power trippers that they didn't give an F if there was evidence of the crime on the child's skin. Imagine in Scientology hotels, they were always very alert thanks to Mike Rinder's CIA, illegal CIA that he ran, as he already put it for himself. Imagine they were very, very careful. Oh, don't let anyone see the kids. Put the kids over here, put the kids over there. We never understood why there was such obsession with having us hidden. Well, now it makes sense, doesn't it? And imagine that we, again, when kids run away from these hotels, they get brought to the police brings them back to Scientology, and nobody asks questions and nobody gives a living shred of an F. It's all Gucci. It's all wonderful. It's all amazing. The kid is about to have another religious experience. So credit when credit is due to the LA Times, who has shocked us by going on the record and exposing This abuse that happened to adults, and it sucks to be a prosecutor in LA County ensnared in these people, but you know what? It comes with the territory and you do get paid a lot for it. So there's perks of the job that no child inside of that hotel has. While they having to deal with the people that all the prosecutors are very scared of. So make it make sense, prosecutors of Los Angeles. Y'all just a bunch of cowards, very scared. Oh, we're so scared. The LAPD's under, their thumb, so it sucks to be us because as adults, we can't handle it. Well, imagine what children are going through inside of the hotels that nobody comes to check on, nobody comes to inspect. There's no oversight. We've been told it's a very religious activity, what the hell they do to those kids. And you know what? We wouldn't know any different, and innocent until proven guilty, and they're not guilty of anything. They can do whatever in the hell a convicted felon wrote on a piece of paper, because that's what America keeps saying. As long as a convicted felon wrote it on a piece of paper, our Constitution is what? Platitudes. L. Ron Hubbard overrode all the Constitution by his stupid ass rhetoric. Imagine the idiots that are in these court systems that with a straight face, they tell kids it's your fault you signed that contract as an underage kid. America provided a way to what? To make child slavery great again. So congratulations, America, for making child slavery great again. Congratulations for letting all Scientology parents get away with it. Congratulations for cradling and canoodling parents that put their kids in harm's way and don't give an F. Congratulations, America. You should feel so proud of yourselves and really talk about the land of the free. The land of the free to violate all the laws that no one wants to enforce anyways. It's just for PR. Oh no, look at the laws here. We really are against this. You really are against trafficking. And yet you do nothing when kids are getting trafficked, because as long as you call it P. Diddy, as long as you call it Nickelodeon, as long as you call it Epstein, as long as you call it Scientology, it's not trafficking, it's not slavery, it's something else. Something else. Isn't that great, you guys? That it's always something else. So, again, shout out to LA Times, who wrote one article in how many decades calling out some very troublesome, illegal, alleged behavior, because everything is alleged, and yet no child has a shred of capacity to get a shred of justice for themselves. Got it. So there's no appetite to set up a shred of guardrails for any kids going forward. No appetite whatsoever to do that. It's too much heavy lifting for, the LAPD Chief Moore, who did go out of his way to really do have this meeting. And you really have to wonder in what world you get a meeting with the chief of police and bring what he says was all this so-called evidence. Well, imagine he probably saw through that evidence, saw straight through it, that it was all BS, and, his hands were tied. So corrupt, and corrupt. And the status quo is literally gone. There is no status quo. There is no benefit of the MF doubt. When patterns have shown you what it is, in what world are we still here in the year 2024 giving, including but not limited to, Mike Rinder, who says he ran a place that operated like the CIA without governmental oversight or powers, Mike Rinder. So nice little comparison you made there for yourself. Imagine somebody just deciding that they're going to be like a federal agency and empower themselves to do the same things that a federal agency does. Where's the basis for you running a place like the CIA inside of a hotel? Where's the basis of you running an intelligence op inside of a hotel and say that you are non-profit 501c IRS? What part of CIA is a non-profit IRS? Make that make sense. Because the man who sold you the pitch that L. Ron Hubbard was an incredible man that really should have a 501c for himself, and they were all dying to practice a religion to really go free, said he was running a CIA inside of a hotel where children got ensnared at an industrial size scale. So in what world are children getting ensnared on an industrial size scale? And it's all happening out of a 501c that is so tight with the IRS giving them special favors. Don't forget, the IRS hooks up every donor of Scientology with the ability to shave off their tax bill to prop up these hotels. So why are child traffickers that are wanting to fund that, fund whatever the child trafficker at the very top said? L. Ron Hubbard, convicted, indicted felon that he was, running around in his ship with 12-year-old Shelly Miscavige. Where's the change? Where's the change that has gone on inside Scientology? Who had the power to, block off certain things that L. Ron Hubbard pitched? Not David Miscavige, not Mike Rinder, and not Marty Rathbun. They were obsessed with their daddy figure. They wouldn't ever dream of saying no to their daddy figure, L. Ron Hubbard. So those three that I just named have no capacity, much less balls, to do anything. Everything their daddy figure, L. Ron Hubbard, pitched to them is, according to them, wonderful and amazing and a religious experience for children. So when those three goons that unearthed L. Ron Hubbard out of his grave and forced the IRS to set up whatever shady AF deal that they have set up for themselves, that they're really going with we're just another 501c like everyone else, you guys. We're really going to save a world with our 501c. Well, start actually making that make a shred of sense. I thank you all for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.